first minute and clock it again when there's 1 minute left.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, and chairperson, and of course, most of the audience. We're here today to debate the topic of the utmost importance, that being that this House does not fear nuclear Iran. We on side opposition are firmly believe this resolution to be true. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of this debate today, I'd like to define some terms for the debate. So this House shall be defined as Western liberal democracies, and fearing a nuclear Iran shall be anticipating a nuclear attack from Iran. So our case line for this debate is going to be deterrence has worked in the past and will continue to work. And what we're going to have to prove to you, ladies and gentlemen, in order to win this debate today, is why the West should not fear in Iran's potential to build nuclear weapons, as well as to prove to you that deterrence works. And my partner is going to be talking to you mostly about deterrence. So, side proposition's three main pillars for this debate are self-interest, why the West shouldn't fear Iran, and deterrence. So, as I said before, my partner is going to be talking about deterrence, and I'm going to be talking to you about the first two contentions. So, Iran acts in the best actions of the regime, and this can be proved in the tale of the hidden Imam. So there is a figure known as the hidden Imam who is supposed to signal the second coming, and there is a statue of him inside of Iraq, which was bombed. Now, this struck close to home for many in Iran and would strike very close to the ideals of the regime and the ideals that it was built on. However, they chose not to act militarily. They chose not to fight back militarily in this case. And there's a reason, and that's because the regime acted in its own self-interest. It knew that there would be no good if they decide to act back militarily. And this is going to be the same thing that happens if, in the case of if they were going to build nuclear arms. They're not going to be, one moment please, they're not going to be foolish enough to act aggressively towards the United States or Western liberal democracy. Would you not agree?
No, I would not agree. What if in situations people from Iran, such as terrorists, take the nuclear weapons and act against the government's decisions or orders?
Thank you. Well, already in many, many countries around the world, we have nuclear arms. And we have terrorist organizations, even within the United States of America, which has the largest cache of nuclear weapons. Now, no thank you. No thank you. And again, if they got hold of nuclear arms, there would be issues. And of course, these are guarded, and of course, they would be guarded in Iran, as any government would do, as a country that acts in the self-interest of its own regime would do, would be to protect its nuclear arms. They always act in their own self-interest, and that is why they need nuclear arms. They need it for their own safety and protection. They are a country who are essentially right now bringing a knife to a gunfight if they were ever to get into one, and they need to be able to have the potential to protect themselves. No, thank you. So this essentially isn't acting like a true weapon. It's actually going to act more like a shield of deterrence, as my partner is going to be talking about. But it essentially helps to protect themselves as opposed to act aggressively, due to the fact that they know that there will be retaliation if they do act aggressively. So that is my first pillar. Now I'm going to get into my second contention, which is why the West shouldn't fear Iran. So the West has immense amounts of technology as well as immense amount of economic and military power. So the West themselves possess nuclear arms, and this acts, as I said before, as deterrence, and it acts to prevent Iran from firing against them, as they know that there will be retaliation in the case of attack against the United States. Thank you. But my partner is going to be continuing talking to you guys more about deterrence. So this, the West not only has military power, but it also has economic power over Iran. And so they have to fear economic sanctions, which the West has already put into place. So for example, the West and other countries around them, no thank you, has put economic tariffs and the such in order to deter them from pursuing their military program, and it has in fact worked. They spend less money now on developing nuclear weapons and more on nuclear energy, which is better for the world. Would you not agree?
No, I would not agree. Sir, would you not say that the reason we're arguing this right now is because the government has failed to be 100% transparent with us, which is why we are very concerned about them developing nuclear weapons in the first place?
Thank you. We have no reason to be concerned, though. That is the crux of the debate. We have no reason to be concerned, even if they are not being transparent. No, thank you. Even if they are not being transparent, and even if they are not revealing to us that they have nuclear weapons, we do have technology, we do have information, we do have defense systems, as I'm going to be talking about. We do have military defense systems to protect us, and we also have the idea of deterrence and the fact that they fear retaliation in order for their own self-interest. They fear retaliation from Western military democracies in the case that they do actually use a military arm. Thank you. And in fact, the only thing that would make us have to fear them is if we chose to crack down on them and acted extremely oppressively towards the nation, because right now Iran has no real reason to attack the United States or attack a Western liberal democracy because of the fact that, of course, they fear retaliation. But if we oppress them, no thank you, they would have a reason to attack us. They would have a reason to fear us, and they would have a reason to act militarily against us. Would you not agree?
No, I would not agree. And would you not agree that it's not simply the Western democracies that are concerned, whereas because we've seen open hatred from the president of Iran against Israel and other surrounding countries?
Thank you. But as I said before, Iran actually needs these nuclear arms as protection. Israel has nuclear arms. They are bringing, Iran right now is bringing a knife in the threat of a gun being pointed at them. They need these nuclear arms actually as protection to deter, as my partner is going to be talking about, to deter, no thank you for that time, to deter Israel from attacking them. So what have I done for you today? I've defined the topic. I have, and I've told you about our case line, which is deterrence has worked in the past and it will continue to work. And I told you that such a proposition needs to show you why the West does not have to fear Iran's potential of nuclear weapons, as well as that deterrence works. And I've told you about our first two poses, which are Iran acting in its own self-interest, and secondly, and that why the West shouldn't fear Iran. And my partner is going to be talking about our third contention, which is deterrence. So for these reasons and the reasons that my partners will bring up, we on side proposition beg to propose. Thank you.